We are calling this meeting to order at 5 p.m. Yes.
We'll start with the roll call of the commissioners. Commissioner Kreider?
Here.
Commissioner Delamano? Here. Commissioner Hutchinson?
Here.
Commissioner Janasek?
Here.
Commissioner Jennings?
Here.
Commissioner Corey?
Here.
Commissioner Pascal?
Present.
Commissioner Shade?
Here.
Record will show that all of the business commissioners minus the one appointment we need to make are present tonight.
All right, and then we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. So if we can all rise and face the flag. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so on tonight's agenda, we are moving on to special presentations and proclamations. With this being the Commission's first meeting, we will be presenting a little history on economic development related activities in the City of Encinitas, and this item will be presented by Deputy City Manager Mike James.
Thank you. So as some of the information that we've sent to you previously was kind of a whole list and bundle of information and activities that the city has participated in as it relates to economic development that dates back all the way to, from what staff could find, was 1991. And actually, now I try not to print things. I'm trying to be a little more sensitive to the environment, but I had to print these just because there was a lot of context and a lot of information that was referenced from one document to the next document to the next document. But within this piece, I just wanted to bring this up, one, because it's kind of the central underpinning of what we are going to explore as the Commission, especially as it relates to just general economic development, but also our economic development strategic plan. And if there are pieces of information that we can learn from the past that have been discussed that are still relevant, then maybe those are ideas and thoughts that we could bring forward. But as you'll note, when you went through the information, there was discussion of economic development, focus areas, a plan, a report, a study with subcommittees, working groups. I mean, you name it, there was a lot of things that were done and performed through the economic development lens. And then how it gradually kind of walked up into COVID. And then at COVID, we had the small business grant program. And then since that time, it was kind of a little bit of a pause until we got to where we're at in the last year. And with this current City Council work plan, one of the goals, as everybody's familiar with, is the creation of the Economic Development Strategic Plan. And so, and you'll have those agenda reports for reference, but we've kind of walked through a couple directions and kind of had to pivot a few times. And so now what we want to do, and this leads into the next item, was to talk about some of the information that Eric shared with us at the City Council meeting that we asked him to come here and to share some of that information and maybe there's a little bit more with you, and then we can help respond to any questions that you might have about past activities that we can respond to a certain extent from our long tenure with the city. And I'm 6 months, and Delilah, you're
Like a year and a half.
Like a year and a half. So you can rely on us for that good, strong historical background. But one of the values that we have with our partners that are here also from Main Street 101s and also the Chamber is they can also provide some context and some background too. As well for today, and I know Pete's here too, and he's been with the city too, and Eric has been in the region from the North County region to be able to assist. So I just wanted to touch on just the importance of history and some of the activities that we performed in the past and how that could potentially help us as we move forward to create our work plan, which is one of the next items that we'll eventually get to. But with that concludes my oral presentation on this item. And if you have any questions, staff can respond to them at this time. Seeing none, then we can move on to the next item.
All right, thank you. And this takes us to item 4B. We have a presentation by Mr. Eric Revold from the San Diego North Economic Development Council, if I can see the screen. Okay, and this is your presentation, Eric. I'll pass you the mouth. Come on. There we go.
It's great to be here, and I'm so excited that I got to do what I hate to do when speakers are there for my programs.
There's a TV too.
I just need to hit that button, and I'm having a hard time. There we go.
I can move.
No, there's TVs.
No, it's perfect.
Okay.
It's fine. Yeah, I'm just trying to see the shadow is on the
Eric.
thing. There we go.
There's TVs in the corner too. Same thing.
Oh, perfect. The same thing in the corner, too. So let's see. I need to. Oh, no. Oh, there we go. Next. Don't send data done. And boom. So, when I have programs or events or committee meetings, I always worry when speakers aren't here and the meeting's starting. So I'm glad I stressed out our staff partners a little bit. But my name is Eric Bruvald. I'm the CEO of the San Diego North Economic Development Council, something I've been doing now for about 8 years. I'll talk a little bit about some other background that I have here. And one of the things that staff asked me to do, and I thought that I could really help you guys with, is zone in on a pretty standard and commonly accepted definition of municipal economic development, break apart some component parts that could be a discussion for a potential work plan, and then give you some ideas of other North County, and in some cases broader than North County, examples of how those efforts and goals are expressed for themselves in concrete programs. That isn't to suggest that these are all appropriate to Encinitas. Some may be things that you want to explore with staff and get additional details and information on, but they're a starting point in really discussing and trying to break down this concept that people kind of know it when they see it, but trying to tie down a definition can be hard. I thought I'd start with just ours, right? So we have, again, we represent and we work everywhere north of SR 56, about 1.2 million people or so forth, about 600,000 jobs. We've got 9 incorporated cities that work with the council, including the city of Encinitas. So really that diversity, and as probably I'm a North County native or close to North County native, I came down here right after school, now 40 years in North County. So I think we all know about the diversity that we've got in our region's economy. And we do that mission, and again, this is not to say this would be your strategic plan, but this is the lens that we look through. We market the region for inward investment, so a pretty traditional thing that economic development organizations do, talk about business opportunity, vacant land, new things that are going on in the region to try and attract inward investment to grow North County's economy. 90% of business growth, though, in any region, true of ours, true of the city of San Diego, really true of any urban area, comes from existing businesses in the early stages of their growth period, right? So everybody gets the headline news about somebody cutting a ribbon or bringing a new business to a region, but 90% of job growth is really from businesses in that early part of their growth cycle. Then they mature and growth slows, but during that period of time, they're ramping up. And then everybody needs a workforce component part. One of the things that we call it connecting employers and educators so that each are talking to the other one and know what the needs are that they have. Just about me, I have a BA and a master's in political science with an emphasis on international economics. I first started working for, that's a little typo, pardon me, but for a high-tech trade association in town, the American Electronics Association, which was a manufacturer. I've worked in regional economics, workforce development, and then again about 8 years now with SD and EDC, and I have a background in economic research and public policy. And I have taught classes in urban politics and urban economic development, so I hope I know kind of what I'm talking about, but who knows? And that isn't to you guys are all smarter than I am because you're business owners and you have to deal with it every day, but I do have a background in this and sort of have some experience looking broadly. So I wanted to give you an idea of a working definition of thinking about economic development in the context of Encinitas, and that's a way of thinking about it in terms of a set of policies, investments, and partnerships. I think I would be remiss if I didn't outline that all of those are important. By no means is economic development solely going to be a municipal kind of function, Really, in California, you need those partnerships. They involve policy choices that you're going to be making, and then really any good municipal economic development strategic plan will have some calls for strategic investment. That may be from existing resources. It may be thinking about how the city can get from A to B in terms of generating additional resources. But economic development involves some amount of strategic investments that you're going to be able to do to move the program forward. And it cultivates and uses it to cultivate support for local businesses. And I'll talk about some of the ways that economic development strategies focus in on that component part, attracting new investment, creating quality jobs to strengthen the fiscal health and quality of life of a city. I think it's important to note is that none of those goals that are separated by a comma necessarily compete with each other. They're not antithetical to each other, but they are ways of thinking about various programs that are in place. And probably from a staff perspective, given Encinitas is kind of small and lean and mighty machine, you're probably going to want to provide some rank ordering to your staff for thinking about which ones are the ones which you think are the best places for the city to make the investment in, and which balance really the goals of economic development against other goals and priorities that the city has. Again, those things aren't necessarily in tension, but we could come up with economic strategies that might be great from one narrow lens to look at Encinitas, but might be challenging from other perspectives and other goals that your community, your elected officials, and stakeholders want to pursue. So I think that that's one of the ways to think about it. And I'm going to go through each of those component parts and really help you kind of like unpack them to understand them. So let's see about goals supporting local business. And a way to think about that, not the only goal that you could do, but one of them is to think about how you could help and how an economic development strategy could help business owners build more resilient and profitable local businesses. And I would really think, in my mind, and I definitely think from the council's perspective, we think about both of those parts being important. Not just about profitability of businesses, but also being about building more resilient businesses so that as economic downturns occur, as crises or shocks occur to those local businesses, that they're able to be in a better place to survive, continue to operate, and continue to add to the quality of life of your community. And so one of the things that I thought I'd do this with all of these is give you possible success metrics. They aren't the only ones that are there, but there are ways of which that you could take that part, build out a program, and then say, okay, here's how we know we're actually achieving those things. And it could be looking over time, whether you're seeing fewer businesses close, lower vacancy rates for the particular kind of property that you're looking at. If you've built more resilient small businesses, vacancy rates should be lower over time of implementing that program. And then survey businesses on their outlook and their resiliency and try and really measure over time, are we providing a variety of programs to help build stronger small businesses? And that's some of the ways to do that. What I wanted to give you is some looking at some things that you're already doing, and some things that are also in a variety of places in other places. So, for example, your staff already is doing business resiliency workshops, offering, I believe, now 2 years. The Small Business Development Center in San Diego, we've got a North County Center, and they offer a wide variety of programming to help small business owners improve their operations, their resiliency, bring business education purposes to them. Vista, for example, I just pulled one. Vista's got a awning improvement plan, so you can actually, a facade improvement plan, so you can go to the city of Vista and get actually a grant to help improve the outward-facing part of your business, with the idea being that a better, more attractive Main Street brings people together in the community, and they've had good success for small businesses, owners looking at that as a way to defer tenant improvements that they otherwise would be on the hook for doing. And then you also have a variety of Main Street programming. Lots of places around the region have made investments in various Main Street programs to try and drive and help local businesses located along those corridors do well. So those are just some of the examples of those, but again, it looks and sort of asking the question, and I heard that loud and clear from at least the mayor and a couple other council members at the last meeting that we were at the city, which is thinking, okay, our golden goose is our small business programs, and so you could imagine a strategic plan that really goes whole hog into thinking about a survey, really trying to understand what your small businesses need, and then driving down into a variety of services, programs, and efforts. And again, a measure of success would be fewer closing, lower vacancy rates, really trying to look and measure the needle. Are we supporting those in a way so to create greater resiliency among our small business community? Fiscal health of the community. So here, is it just a slight tweak on this? It sort of asks the question, okay, one of the things that we could be trying to do with an economic development strategy, back to that definition, is drive business success for those parts of our business community, those aspects that drive additional municipal revenue into the city, allowing the city in turn to further invest in quality of life attributes and aspects in the city, right? Create a more fiscally healthy city that then in turn can invest in quality of life improvements that the residents of Encinitas want. And so possible success metrics could be there. You could look over time after doing that. Are you seeing greater per capita sales tax receipts in your city after implementing a number of years of that program? And have you increased TOT or RevPAR, revenue per available room, for the non-hotel geeks in the room? Are you seeing that as a benefit? One of the challenges, and I mean, I just would be blunt about that you will find is the way in which we've structured municipal revenue in the state of California, God bless it, is that the aspects of your business, or excuse me, the aspects of the economy that will drive municipal revenue the greatest are hotel and visitor industry, and then those retail outlets that generate high sales tax. And those aren't necessarily the greatest jobs that you're going to create. And it's this real tension between what is good for a fiscal standpoint and what might be good for employment opportunities, especially given the challenging cost of housing in Encinitas. How do you sort of balance those in looking at what generates? But by far, it's just the reality, by far the greatest revenue generator for any city will be a hotel, because at a TOT rate of 10, 11, 12%, there's no other business which a municipal government is going to get 12% of gross revenue. It just is the reality. So, and again, I'm going to give you some examples. So what are some things that have been done, economic development programs, that have been done around this particular strategy? So Oceanside and Carlsbad both have tourist marketing districts. They generate revenue that comes off of hotels that they then invest back through Visit Oceanside and Visit Carlsbad to drive additional visitation into those communities. Escondido and Carlsbad work very closely in partnership with major retail centers in those communities to try and make sure that they're healthy, that they continue to have high occupancy rates, and that they continue to generate sales tax. Indeed, in the case of Carlsbad, as you may know, they're in close partnership both with the outlet malls and the shops at Carlsbad because they own the parking lot. And they have that sort of really close relationship where that health and when they put that deal together, the developer didn't have to take the cost on of parking. That was essentially a city subsidy to drive revenue and performance of those things. The city of San Diego, though Lord knows we saw the news of the last week, but until the budget was proposed, they would spend about $12 to $15 million each year subsidizing arts and festivals and other things designed to drive visitation into the city, along with supporting arts organizations. But a clear metric was how many folks were attending a performance at San Diego Opera, the Globe, the San Diego Symphony, and coming from out of town and staying in hotels and driving revenue up. You could look at seeding and supporting large-scale events. So one of the things that's been done in this marketplace is, for example, Oceanside spends significant resources on supporting, whether that is waiving fees or writing down fees or direct subsidying some of the things that drive visitors into Oceanside for major festivals. Del Mar, both through the city and the village association as well as in the fairgrounds. If you look at, say, for example, the Breeders' Cup, that strategy is all about filling hotel rooms in the city of Del Mar and driving up RevPAR and driving up TOT, which then feeds their city's fiscal health. And my favorite, only because it's also a fluent coastal community. By no means did they turn it on in one day, but that is the Festival of the Masters in Laguna Beach, which brings in a couple 100,000 into Laguna Beach over the course of the summer, many who are staying at Laguna Beach hotels and spending money and resources to support the arts and the overall festival that they have. Some Main Street programming does that. I would just principally focus on Vista Village and the Vista Chamber of Commerce, who put on Strawberry Festival every year. 100,000 people come into downtown Vista, spend money, drive sales tax revenue upwards. Escondido downtown has tried to do similar sorts of things, whether it is Great Day Festival or cruising on Grand Avenue, another kind of example with that. You could also do BEAR stands for business attraction and retention. It's kind of an economic development tool, but you could direct, and part of your strategy, many cities do that, is do a significant effort and energy by staff to do outreach calls, visitation, check-ins, check-in on the fiscal health, and solve issues for your major sales tax, and I would add TOT tax generators in the city of Encinitas. And then some, I'm not saying that you should do this, but at least it should be on the table as an example. Some provide sales tax rebate. The state of California allows a municipality to rebate for a period of time, a portion of 1% of the sales tax that they collect, the Bradley Burns part of the sales tax. And many will create an agreement where if there's a particular expansion, there'll be, say, 50 cents on the dollar for 10 years that is rebated back to that person that's expanding. So I'm going to get in trouble with Mike and Delilah, but if you were looking at a strategy, and now they're going to correct me because I'm going to show my Encinitas ignorance, but I believe, right, the REI site is still unfilled, right? Or what's in there now? What is?
Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's is coming. So it's what, you're going to have two now?
Yes.
That's fantastic, right? And you didn't have to do a rebate program. But if you had, is that would have been the type of thing, if that still stayed empty. For example, you could have rebated back part of their tenant improvement with a 10-year agreement to stay there and continue to generate. But it's great. I didn't know that. That's fantastic news. I was worried. That's a challenging structure, so I'm excited that they're coming back. And then 2 data points that'd be worth looking at that, which I haven't been able to do. I did a little bit of sales tax leakage at the council thing. I still think there is some. You're losing shoppers, particularly to Carlsbad, and so thinking about how you deal with that could be a sales tax oriented structure or a sales tax oriented strategy, and then comparative TOT generation. I know you're low, but it's really thinking about that, which is, a strategy in this bucket really would think about hotel room inventory. What do you have opportunities for? How do you spark more investment into building more room nights and RevPAR in your existing properties to try and generate more TOT comparatively. And I think, one of the challenges, this gets a little bit over my ski tips, but I think that if you found good data or good proxy data, one thing you'd notice is that Encinitas gets a lot of summer visitors, but who are staying and buying their hotel room nights outside of your community. So you get a lot of the burdens from supporting that summer tourism, but not necessarily a lot of the fiscal gains. And so one of the things you might want to think about is what could be an economic development strategy, what additional data would we need to sort of really unpack that, and what might that look like as far as something that the commission could bring forward to council. And then create quality jobs. So this would be identify and attract firms that typically have occupations that pay above regional median wage. And then really a metric of success is, if we're lower than, LQ is kind of a location quotient is what it stands for. It's an economic development term that would say, okay, given that there are about 24,000 workers in the city of Encinitas, if we were the same as the region, we would have a similar proportion of biotech workers, software workers, high-tech workers. I wouldn't expect shipyards here. So, we would obviously, our LQ would be low for that in Encinitas, but if we were batting our average, we would be about the same average, and LQ then looks at that ratio. So if if the region has about 3% of life science research jobs in the region, and Encinitas only has 1% of its employment in that area, your LQ would be 0.33. And in contrast, if you have an overabundance of, restaurants, then your LQ would be above 1. It might be 2 or 2.5 if you have 2 or 2.5%, 2.5 times 2x what the regional average would be. What would be some examples of that? Well, marketing efforts. Carlsbad does one, Life in Action. We do one, Why North County. Carlsbad puts resources and staff time in supporting San Diego Startup Week with an idea of looking and attracting entrepreneurs and showing them why Carlsbad works particularly well. And numerous cities provide permit expediting, some fee waivers, concierge-level processing services for businesses in particularly targeted industries that they might want to look at. I think really then for the Business Commission, you've got some discussions, right, which is what more do you want to know about these strategies? One of the things I offered Mike and Delilah as part of your investment in SD and EDC is we're going to continue to provide you research services so that you can look at it. Talk about trade-offs. I mean, clearly, right, doing big major festivals would drive revenue into Encinitas, but also would be a challenge in terms of the quality of life that your residents enjoy, right? We could all kind of or at least I can because I'm weird and wacky, I could envision a rock and roll marathon along Coast Highway, and your residents would hate me for it for the rest of my life, that I couldn't come back and dine like I love to do in Encinitas. So there are trade-offs. And then I think, from city council and staff, you need to get the preferences of decision makers, and I kind of did some rank ordering based upon what I heard in the 3 things that I presented to you, but you also may really want to think about how this plays itself out with how do we think about these in rank order between supporting our local businesses, maximizing revenue, creating quality of jobs. And again, I don't think that those things are antithetical, but I do think there's a value in prioritizing those and then building strategy. You are a small, medium-sized city. You've only got so many resources and so much staff. So providing some guidance in terms of developing that strategy, I think is going to be really useful, and then provide you a document that will actually be really, valuable in terms of guiding things. And then I think, does that framing that I did, that definition that I provided you, does that capture the framing and the idea of what you're thinking about in terms of economic development? Or can I answer any questions of some other ways you might be interested in framing it and give you, I'm not saying, all my great experience, but, give you some ideas and some thoughts in alternative ways that you might want to frame that exercise. But again, I think that's maybe how I would approach it, and staff wanted me to kind of unpack a definition of economic development and then drill down into some examples.
And that concludes your presentation?
I think that does.
All
And
right.
I thought I
So,
saw
yes.
council member or commission members'
Yes,
questions.
so now
yeah.
we can open the floor to questions from our commissioners, and we'll start with Commissioner Jennings.
The working definition here, at least for myself, the policies and investments are a little self-explanatory, but can you elaborate more on like partnerships?
So here's like a really good example, and I'm going to try and be. So today I'm working with another North County city, and we're engaged in an effort to try and essentially save 300 jobs, an employer, and we've got to sort of navigate through that. So they're working with me as a council. I'm also bringing in the San Diego Workforce Partnership. I've got state partners. I've got San Diego Gas and Electric. I'll probably have the community colleges. And we will put together a package of opportunities, incentives, and programs that we can bring value to that prospective business to try and close the gap to make sure that they can stay in the region. And I really think that that's kind of the way in which to approach this. So part of what a strategy could do is identify key partners that you have. And so, for example, back to that small business support system, you've got, I think, really good, strong partnerships that have been developed over decades with your Main Street associations, with your Chamber of Commerce. And there's no reason, for example, that if you decide one of the key strategies for the city is going to be building out a really good portfolio of business education and business resilience packages, to not think about those partners as potential delivery conduits, marketing conduits for sure, and outreach, so that you're really leveraging where they have key competitive strengths. Does that answer your question, Councilman? Or Commissioner? I don't know, but so Commissioner Jennings.
All right, Commissioner Pascal. We have to do this for the record so we know who's
perfect.
speaking.
Thanks for your time. I have a question about the LQ.
Yes.
Where is that information available?
So what you need to look at is, and we can provide that to the commission. We actually, the employment by industry is actually officially collected only at the county-wide level and reported out from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. We subscribe to a service called Jobs EQ, and we'll get that to Delilah, which then estimates how that breaks itself down for Encinitas. And they use it from business license information, Dun & Bradstreet, to try and get an estimate for that. I can be more than happy to provide the commission LQs for a variety of the industries that you might be looking at and groupings of industries.
What does LQ stand for?
Location quotient. So again, the way to think about that is you take a look at the comparative economy and then compare it to Encinitas, and we ask the question, if Encinitas was exactly the same, its ratio would be the same. And if it's not, it means that you either have a way to think about it is a competitive advantage if your LQ's over 1, or that there's something going on for a competitive disadvantage if your LQ's under 1.
Commissioner Hutchinson.
Similarly, do you have vacancy rates?
Can get those usually.
Whether they're going up or going down?
Yeah, we usually partner with one of our commercial brokers, and happy to get that for you on the retail. And I think more instructive for that would be to look at a benchmark and then some changes over time, I would think, right? Would be correct, Commissioner?
Yeah.
Perfect. So we'll get that in for Delilah, and she can be more than happy to do that, as well as I would think, listing rates right now that are going on. And would you say all classes or retail mostly, or what's the focus?
I would say all classes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. We can do that. Yeah, I think we can go back on that. Because we also are small and mighty, so, and I don't think, Delilah, do you guys subscribe to CoStar?
Mm-hmm.
So actually, Delilah can do that, and if she's got a challenge of that, I can help her with CoStar. That's like a $14,000 subscription. So I typically just call up Lee and Associates and I say, "Come on, Al, run that for me." So it works out better that way.
Are there any more questions for Commissioner Delamano?
Yeah. Are there any like quantitative economic benchmarks that we're trying to hit? Like we talked about economic growth. Is there a percentage we're trying to hit, or like what's the goal?
I think that again that kind of like goes back to I want to say that the best way to think about that actually is to step back and ask the question, do you like all three of these goals? And if so, then I think there are different quantitative measures that flow, right? So I think I've said that is that I think over time staff can really answer that question. But when I've taken a look at a few of your budgets, your per capita sales tax is kind of, it's okay, but it's not like, through the roof compared to some other jurisdictions that are there. I know your TOT on kind of a per capita basis is low, and that's something, to be thinking about. Your quality of jobs, I think your quality of jobs is an interesting one. You clearly have a lot of residents in Encinitas who hold quality jobs, have high incomes, but they commute out of the city for their employment. And that's just kind of the nature, I think, of where you are. You don't have a lot of land, which would be appropriate for that. So I'm not sure you're tweaking the needle on that. And then what you do have in the city is a significant amount of retail jobs, right, that are there, and that is just what it is. And then I think your local businesses, I think what you would find is that that's a strong quantitative measure. That's a pretty strong measure, especially if you have city staff hold business license information, and the number of, I think a way to measure that is the number of non-chain or non-national branded businesses that are in your community, and compare that to some other benchmarks that you would look at. But again, I think that's where really kind of giving maybe like some coming together and getting some good consensus, and then the data geeks like myself and others, we can come back and we can really help you kind of hone in on some of the quantitative measures.
Can we use you as a resource if we need information?
I'm sorry?
Can we use you as a resource?
Absolutely. I mean, at some point I'm probably going to call Delilah and say that your membership's not big enough, but that'll be that for a while, and I say that really jokingly, a little bit jokingly, 90%. This is really interesting work because, and more than happy to support the city of Encinitas. I mean, you have, the really interesting thing about you is that you've got your incumbent residents have such high educational attainment numbers and such high incomes. And yet when you look at it in terms of your economic base, you've got this challenge, which is that you've got you reflect the way the county before incorporation thought of Encinitas and thought of Leucadia and Cardiff and Olevenheim. And so really thinking about what you want to do with that economic profile is actually really interesting work to think about it. There's no easy answer. I mean, I think one of the things that, and I tried to make this point, I think I missed it at the council, but back to LQ, Commissioner Pascal. When you look at the location quotient, one of the things that you have a overrepresentation for, not that surprising if we drive the 101, is restaurants, retail, visitor-supporting kinds of industries. A real question that I think this commission needs to grapple with is that okay and we just kind of let that be what it is? Or do we lean in? Do we think about how we could look at shoulder seasons and where, kind of the 2 months before the summer really hits and 2 months after, and could we make investments to further drive activity, visitation, business activity, so you don't have just those folks that are relying upon the summer trade? big choice to make. I'm not saying that that's an easy one to do, because visitors bring their own challenges to your city and your quality of life. But one thing that struck me in the data is that's clearly what the numbers say in terms of employment, and the city doesn't do a ton. Again, I think there are reasons why, but the city doesn't do a ton to think about the shoulder seasons and how to drive up activity and visitation compared to other entities that are out there that also are coastal, affluent, and have strong tourism types of things. And again, I'll give you just an example. A consultant would do that in much more greater detail, is to look at what Carmel does, where Carmel really thinks about its shoulder seasons and tries to think about programming every month that drive visitation into Carmel, Monterey Bay, and tries to think about that as an economic development strategy. And I think those are the right benchmarks. It doesn't make sense for Encinitas to be thinking that much about, Vista or Escondido. You're a different community for that. I think that it'll be harder to find things in San Diego County because you're bigger than Del Mar, and so, you got to think about that. Carlsbad's much bigger than you and also has a big, huge business park. But thinking about affluent coastal communities, whether they're in Orange County or further north, and how they've taken economic development activities, that would be a place, if this commission ultimately recommends a consultant, I know that would be probably part of the, kind of the qualities and aspects that you would ask about a consultant to really help you lean into that.
Any more questions?
I can hang out for a little bit, but then I've got dinner at home. But again, happy to be back whenever Delilah and Mike invite me back, and best of luck, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Okay, and moving on to the agenda, item 5, that brings us to oral communications. Let the records show that we did not receive any slips for oral communications. Moving on to item 6 of the agenda, there have been no changes to the posted agenda. Item 7, approval of the minutes. With this being the Business Commission's inaugural meeting, we do not have any minutes to approve. And that brings us to Section 8, our action items. So our first item will be item 8A, appointment of the Business Commission Chair and Vice Chair. You want to take that, Mike?
Sure. Yes. Yeah. I'll take it. So, just very quickly, the idea here is that any commissioner may nominate another commissioner or themselves for the chairperson or vice chairperson. And just as a recap of what is expected from that, it's the chairperson will essentially lead each meeting. And so what Delilah is going through right now and just walking through the agenda, managing the meeting in and of itself will be one of the primary duties of the chairperson, in addition to scheduling a little bit of time before the meeting to walk through the agenda, to establish the agenda, and some of the discussion points that will move forward, and then any other duties, I guess, as assigned, that where the business commission or business commissioner would need representation at another meeting, or presentations to the city council. It would be expected that if something does go to the city council, that the chairperson and or vice chairperson and obviously staff, we will all go together as a team to present information and items to the city council. So with that very brief recap of the expectations of the chairperson and vice chairperson, the role lasts for 1 year. Historically, the commissions start meetings in March, and so that's why we're having a special meeting, because we're obviously a little bit delayed to try and start in March. And then from there it'll be, and we'll talk about this at our next item, but then every other month is going to be our scheduled meeting. So that would be the expectation of managing the meetings, managing the agenda, and then if any presentation goes before City Council, then of course attending those council meetings, which would occur on the second, third, or fourth Wednesday of the month, which some months that we do are dark, where we don't have any meetings. But with that being said, are there any nominations? Yes, Commissioner Jennings.
Quick question.
Yes.
This is Commissioner Jennings.
You mentioned kind of the time commitment for the chairperson, but how does that reflect for the vice chair as well? Like, I kind of heard a lot of and or, and my question is it and or is it or?
Yeah, so I would, staff would envision that the chairperson is taking point. So the expectation that the chairperson is going to be the individual that's responsible for establishing the agenda and then making presentations to the city council. However, the vice chairperson is also encouraged to attend all meetings, of course. But the vice chairperson would be encouraged to attend both meetings. And from a, I guess, more of a common practice standpoint, I think it's good to have both, not necessarily operate as co-chairs, but to have the chair and vice chair potentially work very closely together on establishing the agenda and other action items for staff to follow up on. I would think that that would be fairly reasonable to have the two individuals work closely together. So if there were an instance where the chairperson gets pulled away, the vice chairperson can step up and not really go, oh, wait, I don't know where we're at with this item, so we really can't talk about that, and they'll have to pause, potentially.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. But with that being said, it is open to any individuals that would like to nominate another individual or yourself, if there is interest.
I'd nominate Tony.
Oh, come on.
He's great.
Commissioner Janasek nominates Commissioner Delamano for chair.
So now what do I do?
You vote for yourself.
You would have to accept the nomination.
You're in or you're out?
I don't think I'm ready for that position yet, but thank you, Jason.
Okay.
I've run meetings before.
Thank you. So Commissioner Hutchinson nominates himself.
I guess I do.
Thank you. Very good.
So then now we would need to make a motion to nominate Commissioner Hutchinson for chair, and then we would need someone to second that motion.
I'll move the motion.
Okay. Hold on. Pascal moves. And then do we have a second? Shade seconds. Well, should we have not done it as one action? We'll have to do this as two actions. Okay.
So, vice chair next.
Thank you. So we have Commissioner Pascal making a motion to nominate Commissioner Hutchinson to serve as the commission chair, and that has been seconded by Commissioner Shade, and now we can take a vote. If I can all have all those in favor of this vote, please raise your hand. Let the record state or show that the commission has voted unanimously to appoint Commissioner Hutchinson to commission chair, with our District 3 representative being vacant. Great. Now we need to make a motion or have discussion for our vice chair person.
I suppose if no one else wants to, I've run meetings at my HOA and I'm prepared to step in when we need it. No one else will.
Great. So let the records show that Commissioner Shade nominated himself for vice chair. If we can have someone make a motion.
So,
Okay.
Second.
Who seconded?
Second.
Okay. And then if you can all raise your hand in favor of, well, let me repeat the motion. Chairperson Hutchinson made the motion to appoint Commissioner Shade to vice chair. This was seconded by Commissioner Janasek. All those in favor, can you please raise your hand? Let the record show that.
Abstain.
Oh, okay. All those who vote no, please raise your hand. And all those who abstain, please raise your hand. Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Kreider, Commissioner Delamano, Chair Hutchinson, Commissioner Janasek, Commissioner Jennings, Commissioner Corey, Commissioner Pascal all voted to appoint Commissioner Shade for vice chair, with Commissioner Shade abstaining, and there are no votes. Thank you. That brings us to, so before I move on, at our next meeting, Chair Hutchinson will be running the meeting. Yay. Congratulations. That brings us to item 8B. We have an oral presentation by Deputy City Manager Mike James to discuss our future meeting calendar. Thank you.
Pick a screen, any screen. Okay. So each year is a part of our plan. Well, it'll be part of our work, establishing our work plan, but then also establishing or confirming our meeting schedule looking forward. And so what staff would like to do is to get that scheduled now, so then all of us can understand what dates that we are looking at. And again, every other month is the schedule. That does not mean we can't schedule more meetings to that. We can have additional special meetings, and I think that's going to be up to the decision of the commission to determine the workload. If there's additional items that we do want to meet together and work on, we can definitely do that. But this establishes the baseline for us to do the schedule itself, so then we can just have that understanding of when we know we're going to have a regular meeting. So today is our first special meeting listed here. As we go into May, this is really the only major month that has a conflict, right? Because we have Memorial Day that's scheduled as a regular meeting. So what staff listed on the screen are, and these are vacant, looking at the city calendar, these are vacant dates that are available within the city council chambers. However, there is work going on in there right now, which is why we can't meet. And so staff listed possible meeting dates, but really there's two that we would like to focus on and potentially recommend to the commission, assuming that you still want to move forward and have a meeting in May, that we would have the meeting either on the 18th or the 22nd are the two available dates. That does two things. One, for staff, it gives us enough time to be able to look up any additional information or gather additional information that has already been requested by the commission, but then also to package that within the agenda and then to develop the agenda as we move forward. And then it gives us the enough time to be able to get that processed and published a week before. Or the goal is at least the weekend before or midweek before to be able to get that on the notice or on published calendar.
The 18th.
I would like
So-
to aim for the 18th.
I would say the 18th, I'm out of town on the 22nd.
Okay. That seemed pretty easy. Okay. Okay, so we'll do that. Okay, and then looking forward, and what I'll do is I'll just walk through each month. June is nothing is scheduled. July, now typically commissions go dark in July and December. January. So in this instance, July is an odd month, so that would be one of our meeting dates. Now, if the commission did still want to hold a meeting, then obviously staff would work with the commission to do so, but as of right now, this would potentially we would go dark in July. So we could keep that as is, and then if we need to, we can declare a special meeting. Everyone's okay with that? Okay. And then August would be dark. September, looking at the 28th.
Sure.
Everyone seem okay with that? Okay. Nothing on October. This one might be a tough one, but this is the week of Thanksgiving. But that's our fourth Monday. Could be pretty good. I think if
I
everybody's
probably won't be able to make that one.
okay. With everyone else, is it still okay? Okay, so we'll keep this on. And then obviously December we wouldn't have. And then looking at next year, so January is called out. There are some commissions that don't have meetings in January. However, we can still continue forward with that regular meeting. If everyone's okay with that?
Yeah, beginning of the year.
Yeah.
It's a good time for economic growth.
And then,
What was that date?
sorry,
25th.
25th. And then February would not have a meeting. And then March would be the next meeting after.
Sure.
Great.
And that would be the 22nd of 2027 that we would have the meeting. Okay. And so what staff will do is we'll clean up these dates and most likely process that as a separate just calendar, and then we can include that in the next agenda when we meet. Okay. Yes.
Just to clarify a couple things, did we land on there, like, so July, we are or are not meeting? That was,
Dark.
it's dark.
Yes. Typically, it's dark, so we would not meet unless the commission. We can make that decision right now if we wanted to keep it on the books, and then as we get closer, if it's determined that if it gets closer and we determine that there is no meeting required, then we can cancel it. But again, it's up to the desire of the commission.
So somewhere, I've been trying to find it, but I saw a timeline for our commission that I think that you presented.
Yes.
And how does that fall in line with that July meeting or
Sure.
not meeting?
Sure. So that was a tentative schedule.
Right.
And the city council essentially opined on that or gave direction to staff that it's really, while that was an option, it's really the commission's decision on when we meet and how frequent we meet, and then how fast or not fast if we want to take more time on it. So essentially saying that that timeline in and of itself was recommended, but it was not supported by the city council.
Okay.
And instead the council went, hey, commission, how about you look this over, you let us know what work items you want to work on and at what pace you want to work on those.
Okay.
And at any point, we could also, as a group, ask for a special meeting in an off month for working on something and making traction.
Yes.
So you could set July 27th as a TBD.
Yes, we can place that
Okay.
on or we can book it, and then as we get closer, then we can cancel.
That'd be my suggestion.
If you-
Yeah, I was going to say that it would be staff would recommend you keep it in your regular meeting schedule because we can always post a notice of cancellation versus having to make sure everyone's available on a certain date, then schedule a special meeting, see if a meeting of the council chambers is available.
Yeah.
So it's always staff's recommendation to keep the meeting schedule as is, and then we can cancel them if need be.
My
Yes.
other question is just in November, you said kind of it's that Thanksgiving week, but I was unclear as to whether there was an alternative.
Not necessarily
Having the meeting
because
that day or just not having it at all.
yeah, so that falls on our regular meeting schedule, which is the fourth Monday of every other month. So that's just where it falls. But I will say this: as long as we have a quorum, the commission can still meet. Which, with our fingers crossed, the 9th person will be appointed next month. So we would just need a minimum of 5 people in attendance to conduct business. So in case people are on vacation and traveling for the holidays, as long as 5 commissioners are in town and present at the meeting, we can conduct business.
And while we're on that topic, I'll just pull up the calendar.
Does that mean we can conduct business on that day, or there is another day that's
Oh,
possible?
say-
That's, I guess, my question.
I would no, that's our day.
It's like that's
So
the
we
day.
would have to
Yes.
schedule a special meeting and then find a meeting room that's available.
Delilah, they can call in if they're not physically present or not.
We're
No.
no.
No,
Mm-mm.
must be present. So this is our city calendar that we're looking at right now. And so our standard date would be here. If we were to look elsewhere, it looks like the 2 Mondays before are available, and potentially the Fridays are available if the commission wanted to move the 23rd right now. And granted, staff would have to go and just spot check this to make sure that that the calendar is updated, to make sure that there's no other meetings on the agenda. But if the commission would like, we can make that move right now.
I'd suggest being proactive and scheduling up for something like the 16th, just
Okay.
the idea that people will be on holiday that week.
Okay. And I
Or
can't
busy
edit
time.
it, so
I got you.
okay.
It's always busy. So.
So it sounds like
16 is fine for
the
me as
commission
well.
is okay with that?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Then we will make that change from November 23rd to November 16th.
Cancel the regular meeting
Yes, and
and then schedule a special meeting.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments regarding the calendars? Okay, perfect. That concludes the calendar item.
Thank you, Mr. James, Deputy City Manager James. That brings us to item 8C. Will you type for me?
Yeah, you want me to open this?
Yeah, please. Okay, so item 8C is discuss annual work plan focus areas and then make assignments. So this is where the commission gets to dive into all of their fun activities. So as a commission, you have all agreed to take on these duties that are listed in Encinitas Municipal Code Section 2.42.040. And some of those duties include advise on citywide economic development priorities, support small business growth and workforce development, engage diverse business sectors, and foster inclusive economic participation, observe zoning and its effect on occupancy and vacancy, offer a platform for discussing and refining business concerns, identify permitting bottlenecks, city responsiveness, and address possible resolutions, promote sustainable and resilient business practices, strengthen city and business relationships, review ordinances or city actions that impact the business community, and coordinate with other city commissions on overlapping issues should they arise. For example, Environmental Commission, Mobility Commission, Arts Commission. In Encinitas, all commissions are required to work on an annual work plan and submit that plan to City Council for approval, and then work in partnership with city staff to achieve the objectives of the work plan that you all agree on. So as for tonight's item, staff is asking our commissioners to discuss what this work plan is. So you will talk about your goals and what project those are, what commissioners you want to assign those projects, and then hopefully make assignments for our next meeting, what you would like those commissioners to come, or staff, to come back with. So that way we can discuss at our next meeting. And so and for this meeting, because we're working with a recorder, if I can please have everyone raise their hand and identify themselves before they speak. So as we go back and use this recording as a record, we can track who was saying what and making what recommendations, please.
So, Commissioner Hutchinson, Chair. I have the impression that the directive from the council is primarily economic development strategy, and so I guess that's what we should most likely be looking at mostly. But concurrently, can we be looking at streamlining processes or
yes
as well?
Thank you. That's such a great point. So I will say during our City Council's last special meeting where we had our City Council annual work plan Q3 update, staff was directed to have the commission, I guess, work in side by side with the strategic planning process. So we were instructed to not have the commission take on the full burden of directing the economic development strategic plan. The goal for the commission, as I understand it, is to identify programs or opportunities to support some of those main buckets that we heard from Eric. So do you, as a commission, want to focus on maximizing revenue, and what does that look like? What do you want staff to, like, what would you propose staff go out and do to maximize existing revenue? Do you want to focus on job creation or small business support and maybe that tourism aspect? What do events look like? So I would take it, I would recommend that the commission focus on those 3 things and not necessarily worry about the economic development strategic plan. Now, if you can't make decisions because you think, well, we need some more data, and staff comes back and we said, this is the data that's available to us, and you're like, well, we need more data, then we might have to talk about what's available to staff at that time and what recommendations we can make to City Council to get access to that data. Let's say you want staff to come back with a SWOT analysis. Well, SWOT analysis requires comprehensive research and community engagement to come back with an efficient and effective SWOT analysis, and that would require resources. So then we'd want to talk about that. So for now, and that's all available, and that's an option. But I want us to think about our work plan in terms of identifying aspects of a strategic plan that we can affect in this room.
Yeah, so
Commissioner Janicek.
With that said, how granular can we get with this? Can we specifically state something that we feel that might impact our business currently and other businesses in our sector, and propose this? Or is it kind of like this macro thing that we then kind of break down into pieces over time through the calendar?
Can you give me an example of what that might be?
For example, I own 5 restaurants in Encinitas along the 101, right? And so one specific thing that has affected us over the last 5 years since COVID is that to engage more business and to create an experience once outdoor dining was established and indoor dining was established, is oftentimes we'd have live music, right? And live music not as like a 3-piece band, but like a DJ spinning vinyl. And this was against the city ordinance, but it was kind of looked past over time. As time has gone on since COVID, this energized our space and created huge revenue bursts, especially on off days like Wednesdays and Sundays. And then over time, it was more, I guess you'd say, like regulated. And so we'd get a notice saying, hey, live music, and that would get reported to ABC, and they'd give us a strike, and it's like, okay, well, we can't do that. Mm-hmm. But effectively, over the course of 5 years that we were allowed to, we started these like micro economies. I mean, DJs were getting paid, and sales were up. So I'd love to see something like that as an easier waiver to apply for, something that doesn't disturb or break ordinance, lower than whatever decibel level to a certain amount of time, and see if this is something that the entire 101 and other areas in Encinitas can take to enhance the experience of each restaurant. So
I
something
get
that granular.
Well, this is what I would say. I believe that all of you were selected to serve on this commission for your experience being an owner and operator in the city of Encinitas. So your experience matters. I would leave that open to discussion with the rest of your commissioners, because while we do appreciate your experience, we are making decisions that will affect businesses of a variety of types. So maybe the massage parlor next door might not like having a DJ spinning in whatever the hours. That's just an example. Bad example is DJs are spinning in the evening. But you get what I'm going with that. But I will say, just whatever the discussion is amongst the commissioners, just to be respectful and considerate of others' opinions. But just keeping in mind that we are creating or making recommendations to present to City Council to benefit the city as a whole. And yes, there may be businesses that could definitely benefit from live music, but what does that look like? And just keeping that hat on, is that you're here to represent your District 1, not just your one business.
Sure.
Commissioner Pascal. So I've been thinking about this a little bit, and my thoughts are that we really don't know each other. This is a new commission, and we really don't know what the problem is. So I would like to throw on the table for discussion that we basically identify the issue. And what I mean by that is we have enough people in the room to basically whack up the districts that we have here. We have, in my view, 5 different business districts in town. We've got Leucadia 101, we've got Encinitas downtown, we've got Cardiff, we've got Encinitas Boulevard, and we've got El Camino Real. And divide those areas up and have a commissioner take a look at one of those areas and give an overview of it. In addition to that, since there are only 5, there are more than that of us, I think code enforcement, to your point, is something that we'll need to take a look at. And someone interface with the various staff functions in the town and have them tell us what they do. So everybody starts out at some point on the same page, and we all agree this is the animal that we're trying to take care of. And I throw that out for consideration. Mr. Commissioner, Mr. Chair.
I think sure, that sounds like a very good idea. As you said, the 5 different places, we've got, well, the 3 districts that we have now, those people should obviously be the ones for whatever the district would be, and then maybe a couple at-large people for.
I mean, you can assign them, or they can volunteer. I mean, by my view, what we have is we have a community of around 19 square miles, 61,500 people roughly. Average age is 43 years of age. There's 24,000 households in the community. The average income is $162,000 a year versus $121 for the nation. So it is an upscale community. The municipal budget, from a tax receipt standpoint, we're dealing with $113 million roughly business here, of which that, by my calculation, around 3% of that is TOT tax related. So that's something we should spend some time at. And so, those are some of the overview of the animal that we're trying to take care of. But we don't know whether or not this is a gazelle or an elephant, and to try to identify it and have us come to an agreement. This is the animal that we're dealing with. Our largest employer, I think, is the hospital. We have some major tenants in terms of Home Depot, Walmart, Target, etc. Right? And for sure, it's a net migration community in terms of business. The residents move out, leave the community for work, and it's a net in-migration for their workers, right? For basically the retail space. So there are factors there. So, but to understand that, I think it will enable us to do our job better. So,
I think that's a pretty good idea. Another thought that I've had, many years ago, there was a program in Encinitas called Shop Encinitas First. Anybody remember that?
No.
No. It was actually quite successful. They hired the city hired a advertising company to come up with thoughts on it, and I think that could be something that we try and get people to buy stuff here rather than on Amazon, going to the brick and mortar stores and see what we can generate that way. As to your point, again, I guess, who are the 3 district people right now? District 1, and that is Leucadia. Okay, so you would obviously take Leucadia. You would take El Camino Real, I would think.
I'll do Cardiff, since I live in Cardiff.
Okay, Cardiff, and
I live and work in Leucadia.
In Leucadia as well.
I'm willing to do it.
How about Old Encinitas? Is that Main Street?
I can take that as well too.
Oh,
we have business there as well.
Yeah,
so
okay. Well,
I kind of know
two
if
of you-
everyone there.
good.
But he's there too. So
Yeah.
Are we conducting surveys, create like a survey of what businesses? It's kind of like what Eric was saying, right?
I think that
the businesses.
what was being proposed is that
My thoughts are who the owners are. For example, and I talked to Braden about this the other day, the owners of the shopping centers, to find out who they are, whether or not we have national institutional owners versus local owners, because that makes a difference in terms of marketing and attraction of business. Profile the kind of businesses. We all know there's a lot of restaurants on Main Street, and dissecting that, trying to find an analysis in your district of the vacant spaces and how big they are, what the rents, asking rents are, etc. It gives us another overview of some of the challenges we have. So as much information that you can dig up about the area that you take, the more we'll know together and be able to have as a platform to go forward.
And the type of businesses that we need to have move into Encinitas. Like, for instance, there's no Staples anymore. Where does anybody buy office supplies?
I do have a question on this.
Commissioner Kreider.
Yes. Is this information already available? I mean, are these resources, does somebody already track the metrics that we're kind of talking about here? Because I wouldn't want to waste our time trying to, I don't know, knock on doors, so to speak, with shopping centers, if this information we can get from somewhere. You know, the vacancy rates of shopping center, whatever, all of these things that we're looking at.
Yes, so the city does subscribe to CoStar. Has anyone heard of CoStar? Okay, great, yeah. So the city subscribes to CoStar, and that subscription includes certain reports. So we can look at vacancy rates. We can print this all at the click of a button. Vacancy rates, property owner profiles, like when the property transaction details. We can get analysis on price per square footage, our retail versus commercial versus industrial makeup. So that is what the city has readily available.
Right.
In terms of surveying, the city last October sent out a survey in the newsletter, and it was made by yours truly, so it was not a professional survey. It was just something to kind of gauge business satisfaction in the city of Encinitas. And we only had 200 of our 5,000 to 5,500 business license registrants participate. So that's a teeny tiny small sample size, but it also includes people who don't have storefronts, who have businesses out of their home, which there's a lot of those in Encinitas. And then all of those 5,500 business registrations, a large portion of them are also short-term rental businesses too, so that's something to think about. So that survey, we have information, but I wouldn't call it statistical information. And then as members of the San Diego North Economic Development Council, we also get baseline data. So at the commission or the council meeting where Deputy City Manager, myself, and Eric presented our updated economic development strategic plan to council, the first portion of that presentation was Eric presenting on some baseline data, and that report is attached to the council agenda item. So you can have access to that, which is all publicly available information, like he was saying, from the U.S. Department of Labor. He uses Jobs EQ. So that's what we can bring back at our next meeting to get you started. Staff can print out those CoStar reports and then print out the baseline data from Eric from March of 2026.
I have a question. Sorry, Commissioner Heather. Commissioner Kreider.
Yeah.
What about using the resources from the Encinitas Chamber of Commerce, the Main Street Associations, the 101s? They are the ones who have been really instrumental in maintaining those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming that they probably have a lot of data that they could provide also. Is that appropriate to ask them for that?
Yes, very appropriate. So the city maintains a relationship with our Main Street Associations and our Chamber of Commerce, and we meet with them monthly. I do know that our Leucadia 101 Main Street Association did a paid they hired a firm to create a legitimate survey not too long ago, and we can ask them if they would feel comfortable presenting that survey with us, and we could have them come do some special presentations as well to give you guys an understanding of at least the Main Street Associations, and then see what areas the Chamber has service, because the Chamber also manages our visitor center, so they even have information on tourist data. Plus they're tapped into the California Chamber, and I think, are you guys national too? Do you have? Visit California. So we have some comparative tourism data from the state. Commissioner Janicek.
Yeah, is it also appropriate to propose some more kind of boots on the ground activations. I'm pretty involved in the community building in Leucadia specifically, and what I found is that I can use any one of our venues, specifically one of like Lulu, for example, to host like a business owner mixer for my specific district, and just kind of engage with them, but also have them write maybe like their top 3 concerns that affect their businesses specifically. I can then collect that down and report it back. We can use that as a sample set, and if it does work and we find it valuable, then maybe each of your districts can do the same thing. But I mean, I can easily have 150 business owners along with 101 in Leucadia specifically be available in like 2 weeks' notice. So that's not a heavy lift for us. I think it'd be valuable, like actual, horse's mouth initiatives from what they want from us, so then we can enact that.
So something you guys could put in your work plan would be like community engagement. So if that's what I'm hearing,
Yes.
And what that looks like, and you guys can discuss on like, does it look like boots on the ground? Does it look like a survey? Does it look like public workshops? So that could definitely be part of your work plan.
Okay.
I'm not here to tell y'all what to do, by the way. Commissioner Delamont. Am I saying your name right?
Yep, you're doing
Okay.
it perfectly. I guess I'm just getting used to this, but it's taking like 5 steps back and just Eric presented, had a great presentation about the way he would approach this. And he had buckets, right? Like quality of life. Like there were like 5 things, right? Like he said generally. Yeah.
Fiscal health.
Yeah, fiscal health. I guess personally, I don't know where the issue is in this town, right, or where the opportunities are, like within those buckets. And we can't address all the buckets. We probably got to do 2, right? So, personally, if I did attack this, I would start with those buckets, get some sort of metric on each one to see how we're doing, and then maybe granularly in each bucket, we weight each district. So let's say quality of life is poor, but it's only one district, right? That's like outweighing like that one number. Then we just specified exactly what we need to tackle. But I guess a different way to start with the districts, I feel like that's not holistic enough. I'd start with the buckets and throw everybody in one bucket, because I think we'll have time later to get into the regions to see where the issues might lie. That's just my recommendation. But the buckets seem pretty good to me.
I'll push back on that only and not just to push back, to argue if the analogy is a sick patient, we're trying to first figure out if it has a cold or it has cancer. So we have to understand the patient first. So all I'm trying to do is lay a groundwork for the whole community by region where everybody works. And then from there we can get into the buckets that we need to address. But before you understand whether the patient's a leopard or an elephant, you're going to be, I think, going across purposes.
Commissioner Jennings had his hand raised.
I think I very much agree with both of these points of view, and I think there's no reason that there can't be a simultaneous hybrid of these. I think the direction from City Council, from the meetings I attended, along with, as you mentioned, the very informative statistics that Eric has been able to bring to us and guidance, there are some specific buckets or areas that are suggested that we look at. And at the same time, we are in 4 different districts that we have expertise at, but what might be good for El Camino might not be what's good for the 101, right? So I think we can very much separate into those districts as, suggested, and come up with a couple plans of action. Maybe there's overlapping that, what's good for Cardiff and 101 is a combined thing, and what's, maybe El Camino is something different. So I think we can very much look at those 2 things simultaneously at the same time and go in that direction without being, crossing, being, what's the word I'm looking for, productive, so staying productive the entire time.
Commissioner Corey. So I think we should focus on number 1. I think we all want to help business owners. That would be our first goal. And what do we need to do to get there? And I think we need data. So survey per industry, per district. Whether it's boots on the ground, emails. Like how are we going to collect the data? So number 1, that was a bucket to help business owners.
Yeah, support.
Support the business owners. What do they need?
Commissioner Jennings, again, I think that's exactly the point where boots on the ground and data collection can get laborsome and can get can drag on quick, right? So I think Jason had a great idea of as small business owners, we play to our strengths, right? We utilize the data that Eric has at his fingertips and that is provided to us by the 101s, the chamber. We have that data already. Let's utilize it. We don't need to be redundant and searching for new. And then let's get straight from the horse's mouth pretty easily and quickly, to your point, where this doesn't need to drag on for the next 6 months before we hear what's good for everyone. I think we go down those two avenues and we make the best decisions with the information that we have.
Commissioner Shade.
Commissioner Shade. I was trying to kind of get my arms wrapped around what the commission really can do and will do and does and how we're going to frame it up. And my thoughts kind of were, we have goals, like we all know we have some big goals and they've been kind of given to us, and we'll drill down on those. And then we have, I guess, districts that are sort of working towards that goal. I want to make sure that all districts are getting equal representation, if that's what's fair. Like, I don't want to be advocating for my district, because I will be, but and neglecting others. So is there, when we put our goals into a list, or we want to make sure everyone's voice is heard on this commission, and then taking those with the data that we're given, part of me thinks like I'd love to see just a working meeting of this group and sort of spitballing to start. And I know that's probably not what the city wants to hear in terms of process flow, but as a group offline, maybe we could, and that way we could kind of get to know each other better, and come up with ideas and thoughts.
Please just be cautious about discussing commission business
and
offline.
The other question that I was going to lead into is Brown Act and swearing in and all that, because I don't know if everyone got sworn.
Help me understand that.
So it is not necessarily advised to talk to your commissioners about commission business outside of a meeting, because it could lead to Brown Act violations. For example, let's say Commissioner Shade and Commissioner Pascal go to dinner, they have some beers, they're talking about plans for the city. Then you both leave that event, and then Commissioner Shade goes to Commissioner Jennings and Commissioner Pascal goes to Commissioner Hutchinson, and you guys are now sharing what you talked about. And then by the time you come to your next meeting, you've had discussions about commission business that are not open in the public and did not give the public an opportunity to provide input on. Now, to your point, Mr. Shade, we can definitely have working meetings. It's very common for commission meetings to have our spreadsheet up of our work plan and be typing as we're going. That is totally normal, totally okay. So we have Deputy City Manager Mike James here typing everything down, so that way we can keep track of all the wonderful ideas that are coming at you. Nothing's off the table in terms of format for coming up with the ideas. And then even if you guys go to make assignments or in the future make subcommittees, you will be advised to only speak with those people about that business and with specific goals to bring it back to the commission and report on it in a public setting.
It's pretty narrow.
Yes, it is. Commissioner Jennings.
Just to that end, secretarially, is that to mean like one of us should be, whether we talked about 4 districts, right? And I think we got halfway there with assigning people to a district. And is that something, Mike, that you are, all the great ideas, as you put it, taking notes, and that is not necessarily one of us, or should we be assigning one of us right now to basically be jotting down these ideas to make sure there's in the notes?
You have us.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And along those lines, I think that discussion focused on researching and learning more about the areas of the city. So old, new, Livenheim, Leucadia, Cardiff. And then I think the piece where I paused was the specific assignments to each of those locations. if the commission wanted to move in that direction, we can definitely do that now. And then that's the second piece to that, and this could be more of, and I pulled it down because I couldn't sync and we couldn't edit through here, so that's a technical thing that we can fix before our next meeting. And I think that the second piece to that is figuring out how do we successfully gather the data that already exists. So going through Eric, and obviously I think the Chamber and the 101s have a tremendous amount of data. I think that they are just ready, willing, and able to provide to us to be able to walk and talk through some of the questions that have been brought up by Commissioner Pascal and others. I think that data is readily available, and so we could almost do a pairing, if you will, between the districts of the city and potentially 101s and Chamber to be able to help kind of match some of the data source to however we make those assignments. So if that's kind of our first step, or if that's the commission's desire to move forward with the first step, we can kind of work on that, and then I think potentially that could tie into a working meeting. So to your point, I love meetings. So if the commission's not very happy, if we want to meet, the more often we want to meet, we can definitely do it. I think there's a lot of value in that, especially early on, right? We're working together as a commission to build the team to figure out how we can make recommendations to the city council moving forward. So if we need to meet next month, we can meet next month to be able to have that working meeting, to be able to go, okay, now that we have our data, let's have the Chamber and the 101s come and present that data for each specific area. And I'm making this up as recommendations to the commission, but that could be an option that we do a little Q&A, talk a little bit more, dig into the metrics, dig into some of because I guarantee you can ask any one of our partners. Again, to your question about partners, the Chamber and 101s are very close partners. Ask them off the top of their head, what are your 5 biggest things that are going well? What are the 5 areas that we need to improve in that specific area? You're going to have them probably within seconds, because I think it's tip of the tongue that their information they'd be able to share.
So,
sure.
Commissioner Hutchinson, just a clarification, a working meeting would not necessarily be a regularly scheduled meeting then?
No, staff would recommend that we actually schedule it and have it open to the public to attend if needed.
To attend as well.
So we would call it a special meeting.
You'd call it a special meeting that would still have a 72-hour agenda posted ahead of time and all that.
Well, it's a different, it's a lesser reporting schedule, but same thing, yes.
Okay.
It would be a duly noticed public meeting. We would just call it a special meeting because it's outside of our standard schedule.
Okay.
Which, May would not be. That would be our standard meeting that we already set for May, because we did move that date. So that could be the agenda if the commission wishes, or chair, that we hold as far as a data review, and then we could have further considerations, which may help. That could also help serve as kind of the foundation of job focus, or small business, local business focus, job force, or workforce job creation, and then expansion, attraction, retention, whatnot. So, there could be other things that come from that based upon the data that's presented.
Commissioner Janicek, so just for clarification, if we wanted to beta test my thought process there, is this something that has to be voted upon the whole commission for me to just have a district mixer and aggregate information? Is that, or is this something I can do representing my district without announcing it? To the commission. How does that work? Am I representing my district or the city at large?
Well, it's kind of both,
right?
Yeah. Because you were selected, or each of you were selected either at large, but more specifically for your district representation. But it's also a representation of the whole. Mm-hmm. Now, I think the data already exists to a certain extent, and I think I would rely on the 101s first for that data information. And Chair, if you're okay with it, I can ask our 101s and Chamber that are here with us if they would share some of that.
Absolutely.
Right away. So if y'all don't mind, just touching on some of the existing data points that you already have in place and how some of that probably matches a lot of what the commissioners have shared. And
Sure, I mean, I can say that.
Can you announce yourself, please?
What?
Can you announce yourself, please, for
Sorry,
the record?
yes, Stacy Riddell, Media 101 Main Street Association. I'm the executive director there. We did a survey, and it took up all of last year, and I'm sure you participated. Almost all of our businesses did participate that are members of 101, so we had a really good turnout. We did ask anyone that had a business license in our community to participate, and I can share that survey with all. I can email the results to all of you. I'm also happy to do a presentation on what we learned. It was quite extensive. It took a whole year, and we paid quite a bit of money for it. And I think it was very, very valuable for us to determine what direction we want to go in to help support businesses in our community. And Jeff can talk to that as well as being a board member. And so, just kind of understanding where people are in the cycle of their businesses. Like, how long have you been in business? A large majority of our businesses have owned their businesses for more than 10 years, and I don't think a lot of people would know that off the top of their head. So there's facts like that in there. I can give a much more comprehensive presentation, obviously, with the data, and I'm happy to do that. And I do think we all have a very good handle on what's happening in our districts that could really help you guys kind of with a higher level of picking out some of the themes that are coming across all of our districts too. So,
if I may make a recommendation, because what I'm kind of hearing is the commission needs more information before they can decide where to begin. It's almost like, how do we know where we're going if we don't know where we're at? So what I would propose is that at our next meeting in May, staff will come back with the baseline report that Eric presented at the council meeting. We will pull our reports from CoStar, and then we will have a special presentation from our economic development partners to present to the commission a summary of Encinitas. So we would give you, like, this is Encinitas, the business landscape in Encinitas as a whole. Now you understand it. Now you can decide what you think would go best in your work plan.
Commissioner Gordon, can we be very specific and ask just what are the top 5?
Top 5 what?
You know, like requests that businesses want from the city of Encinitas to support them.
I think that would be a great question to ask our partners.
Yes.
Because like we just heard, they're the boots on the ground. So to Mike's point, Commissioner Jenisic, like that, I think that data already exists, number one. Number two, we can't really call surveys if we're just a single person asking questions. That's just like anecdotal information, which can all be compiled, and you can make stories and make summaries. But the 101s in the chamber have all that for you already, so you don't have to spend your time repeating or duplicating efforts. And they could present like what those top 5 issues that they hear. I'm sure you'll hear a lot of the issues have to do with permitting, but we know that. But you can hear about it directly from our partners. But what are some of your other questions, Commissioner Corey?
Well, I just wanted to ask if we could just narrow, because I'm sure there's so much.
I think that would be a great discussion.
I feel like
I think that would be a great discussion to hear from the commission, like, and especially since we have our partners here.
Tell us right now.
But like, because we're missing Encinitas 101, and then we also want to give our partners a chance to prepare something to share with you all. But what is some information that you feel is missing from today's conversation that you think our partners could help you with?
Vacancy rates.
That's actually from CoStar, so that would be city.
Kind of a snapshot of where the city's at.
So,
Commissioner Pascal.
Number of businesses by category, restaurant versus clothing, retail type of thing.
Broken up by district as well.
Broken by district. Sales tax. If possible, I don't know if you guys have it, but average square foot, and how big these storefronts are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the storefronts, by my eye, downtown run from 2,500 square feet to 10,000 square feet, depending on how they're configured. So that's important. I don't know. You guys don't cover? Do you cover the Encinitas shopping center marketplaces?
Like on El Camino Real?
Yeah, I think tenant mix is, I know one of the things that the mayor's interested in is tenant mix. So understanding the three shopping centers along his boulevard, Lazy Acres, Smart and Final, and BB's shopping center, understanding them a little more in detail would be important. I'd love to know the ownership of them, of those centers. That's for something down the road, but the point there is the difference between a local owner and an institutional owner, because that'll have an impact on how the community will respond to them. I think these organizations, and I had part of my thoughts was not only to have these partners come to us, but also to have code enforcement make a presentation as to what their job is, because I think that's going to be a big issue for us to take a look at. So there's some of the thoughts that I had.
Okay.
Commissioner Jennings?
Hang on a second while I'm putting this down. Sorry, just give me a pause. So Commissioner Pascal, that could be something more of an informational item from city, or an orientation to city staff or city personnel that are involved in the business development or economic development, which could be code. So we can definitely work on that and start adding in. If there's other avenues that the commissioners would like to hear more of, we potentially could bring on some of our planners or our planning management staff that would be able to speak to process. So yes, okay.
And we'll go with Commissioner Jennings and then to Commissioner Kreider.
I guess I have a few questions if I'll just get it out right away. I think my first is something I think Jason just touched on briefly, but I don't know if I got a clear answer to. As a commission, if we come up with an idea, like let's say the districts, we want to separate into those districts. What is the process right now for how we make that happen?
Yeah.
Or do we all say, great, there's a motion to do this, and we second that motion, and is that the process?
I think right now,
so.
As we're developing the work plan,
Right.
it's direction to staff to be able to make those notes and to be able to output
And
those
then here in the
applications.
future, when we're ready, we just basically that's how I'm just making sure that's
I guess are you talking about subcommittees maybe?
or just like as a collective group, if it seems there's a consensus and idea we're talking about, like okay, we're all going to split up into 4 districts. At what point do we say, okay, let's do that. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next thing. Right?
I think what's hard is we're having technical difficulties, so you can't see that we're making these assignments in your work plan. You want to just turn your computer around really quick so they can see it? I think
you won't really.
but this is what, so the districts, so you have like your goal and then the district. So you don't have to say, okay, we're making, like I vote to make this assignment. But for the assignment you want to make, there is a column on there that says members involved. Let us know, because we will notate what members are involved on like that assignment.
So to that same extent, in this process, maybe there 3 or 4 of us is talking about this meeting. This is a good idea, but I'm just going to, for instance, Tony says, I don't think we should be wasting our time with that. At what point is there a consensus to us as to like this is the direction we're going to go down, and we're not going to go down this direction?
I think that's when you get votes.
Is it? So that's my question: is how often does this happen in a discussion of like?
Are you talking about like single work plan items?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just consensus. So we're at the end of this, we are going to vote to make a next step for the work plan.
Okay.
Single work plan, it's like there's 80 y'all. I mean, someone can figure it out. Like using the example, if Tony's the only one who doesn't like it, but the other 7 do, I would imagine that it would make its way into the work plan.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Right.
Yeah.
So it's majority.
Majority.
It would be a majority vote. So now, for to be able to move forward and add to or remove or whatnot, you would have to have 5.
So towards the end of each meeting, we'll just reconfirm that these are the action points for moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
And while we have it down and we want to move forward and we'd like to finish the work plan, I think this one is probably going to carry over into our next meeting. I'm just throwing that out there, right? So we can throw these ideas in, and then the commission can provide direction back to staff, which you already kind of have, in working with our partners to be able to come back with an info item or a presentation at the next meeting. But that could also stand true, this item could just be continued, and then we can talk about it further at the next meeting, assuming that the commission wants to.
Yeah.
My second question would be, can I direct a question towards the 101 and the chamber, and am I allowed to do that?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
We're allowed to.
I think that what we've talked about, this kind of wealth of information that, like, let's utilize what's at our fingertips, and if they have some of that, my only question to you all would be, in full transparency, there's 4 districts, and is there any area in those districts that you feel that you don't have a full representation of, that we need to go down and look? Maybe it's, we have a really strong hold on what's going on in the 101, but in fairness, a Livenheim, we're not as, and that would be my question to you, is there any area of focus that we should look for outside statistics for?
Probably a Livenheim, I would say.
Carol's there.
Right, I live in a Livenheim.
Right, exactly. I mean, yes.
Right.
Yeah, so probably that. There's not a lot there. I mean, we have the ranch and we have the 7-Eleven plaza, but that's probably, we don't have tons of data on that area.
Yeah, that's my question. So just for us to know that we should look a little, where, to your point, where, equality and equity, right? So it's like, we might need to focus a little there just because we don't have that information, just to make sure we're not overlooking anything.
Can I still speak? And I have to say, because of El Camino Real's mix of tenants, it's not a lot of small businesses, so we don't necessarily have a lot of that data from those big box stores too. So that relationship is not as intimate as some of our independent small businesses.
And I think we touched base on that, we want to know our bigger landlords more and know those things on El Camino more. We need a little more information there as well. So
I think.
But Coast Guard would have that, right?
One second. I think to Commissioner Jennings' question, we have the executive director from Cardiff 101 who had something to say to you.
Well, I just wanted to, I'm Allison Wojciechowski from Cardiff 101 Main Street. That I just wanted to kind of say to you all, when you are looking at the different districts, to take into consideration that Cardiff has a specific plan, and make sure you know that, what is in the specific plan and what you can and cannot build in Cardiff, because Cardiff does not allow big box stores, it does not allow anything over a second level, and we are the only district that has an ocean view, so we don't have anything on the other side of the 101. It makes us smaller, but what it does is it is something to take into consideration when you're looking at the broader picture of how these different pockets of places are unique and why they're represented differently, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to share that with you, with the commission.
One moment. I think we had Commissioner Kreider in line to speak, so we got to.
So in our next meeting when we're going to be presented with more of this data, I would love to have some information on, I think it's called the raves. Is it called raves?
What would you like to know? I manage that program.
I know, and I see you on Instagram all the time. I would just like to know, I really don't know, just through Instagram, I see, you go and you meet with with businesses, some very established, some new. I would just like to know kind of a rundown of what it is that role, what it is and what you do for it and how that supports the businesses already, because that is already something that is in place. I kind of just like to know what is already in place, so we're not sitting here going, we should do this kind of thing, and it's already there.
Yeah. Our RAVES program so it includes a few things. It includes our business visits on a singular level. It includes our business workshops, and then it also included our survey. I wanted to do an in-person survey. It didn't work out that way, but I'd love to do an in-person survey where boots on the ground, because I really like that idea. So during the business visits, city staff, in partnership with our economic development partners and sometimes a council member and maybe the mayor, will meet one-on-one with businesses to learn about their history, show our appreciation for them choosing Encinitas, identify challenges that they may have with the city, hope to resolve those immediately, and then also learn from them. So we ask, if the business doesn't necessarily have any pressing issues, like with a permit that needs to get approved right away, we try to use that time to learn about their workforce. What does that look like? Where are their employees coming from? What's their employee retention looking like? Do they have any plans to grow? Do they have funding issues? Do they offer training? Can I collaborate? Like, is there opportunity to collaborate with you with another business? So it's an opportunity to connect with this business and also to connect that business with resources and other opportunities.
Is that data available? Like, can we access that?
Though that data is all anecdotal and it is all on our website. So you can go to the city's economic development webpage, click on Rave's Business Visits, and there's a summary of the conversation that was had at that business. The data would have been in that survey that I did on my own. So again, take that data, do with it what you will, but we do have that, and we will be doing that annually. I thought about doing that biannually, but there just didn't seem to be a need to ask the same questions. But that is definitely something we can always grow and expand on. And then we have our business workshop. So we had our first one in October. It was Permitting 101 because as we were starting this business visit program, the theme that we heard over and over again was that permitting is very challenging and difficult to navigate in the city of Encinitas. So our answer to that was to host a free workshop that went over Permitting 101, everything from getting a business registration to making tenant improvements to getting a special use permit if you wanted to have a special event in your parking lot. That was that. We have our next business workshop, nice little plug for me, on May 26th at the Encinitas at the Encinitas Community Center, and the topic there will be marketing. So, Brand Boost Build will be introducing you to branding, SEO and SEM, and how AI is changing that. And we will be working with some of our chamber members because we like to keep things local. And at the end of the workshop, they'll even be giving free little consultations, no commitment required, but just helping support our small businesses, because that was the second biggest issue that we found was our small businesses having limited resources and challenges with marketing, specifically social media and the need for it and what to do with it, how to approach it, how do I make it easy for me. So we are responding with that workshop. Did that answer your question?
Yeah,
Great.
it's good to know.
Yeah, so that's what the city's doing. Additionally, with our partners, anytime they hear of a business struggling, they have myself and Mike's direct phone number, and we are trying to support businesses immediately. So, for example, business had a landscaping issue, that was bothering them, so I got a message, and we're working to get landscaping on city-owned, property in front of their business to reduce blight, if you will. So that's something that we do. It's almost like that concierge service, but again, it's just me, guys. So concierge with a little bit of wait time. And then we have to go in order to be fair. Commissioner Shade, and then Commissioner Pascal, and then Commissioner Delamont.
I just had two quick questions. One, the way that the districts are broken up in Encinitas, does that align with the business districts that we want to be addressing? Because is it a population thing, or was it just geography, or is it actual revenue business?
So the districts that are commissioners who represent a district were all chosen. They align with our council district representation. We have some commercial districts that I monitor myself. So it's still the 101s, Leucadia, downtown, Cardiff. And then I also have Encinitas Boulevard. And then I split El Camino to El Camino North and El Camino South, with Encinitas Boulevard splitting it. Mm-hmm. That's what I personally did. But you guys are free to do whatever you want.
My second question was, is there any need to address anything on a more rapid basis, like between now and towards the end of the year, if there's any glaring 911 type things? I don't know, for example, streetscape, stuff comes up, right? Anything like that we need to address? Should we as a group try and define that. I brought up streetscape as
Yeah.
a joke, but
I know.
it's not a joke.
I don't
It's
think
not a
we
joke at
have
all.
any
It affects
economic
sorry.
emergencies.
And staff, engineering staff is very aware of streetscape and the priority that of completion. They're on it. That's it. It is a priority project for the city.
And the reason I brought that up, not that we can make changes to anything Streetscape's doing, but as a group and as a commission, maybe by the end of it, there could be some sort of rollout of a grand reopening or something for those businesses.
I think that's something to definitely explore. I know the city of Vista did that when they completed their Santa Fe kind of streetscape project. They did a press release. They created promotional materials for their businesses and even for their facade improvement program. They prioritized their businesses on Santa Fe to kind of match the new streetscape that they did. They wanted all of their businesses along Santa Fe to also get a facelift, so that's where they prioritized their grant. I was the economic development specialist at Vista at the time, and I would go like door to door with a little flyer letting business owners know that this grant existed. So there's definitely opportunities if that's what you choose to focus on as a commission. Commissioner Pascal. Okay.
Whatever was I forgot.
All right. Who was next?
Commissioner Hutchinson, one question. If Cardiff has a specific plan, what about the rest of the district?
Downtown Encinitas has a specific plan, and El Camino Real has a specific plan.
Okay. I believe behind does not.
I don't think so. I'd have to get back to you.
Why would
Yeah. Commissioner Delamano. I'm going to get that right.
I just really like to request data on like resident sentiment or quality of life type things. Like I want to understand what the people here want, like what they're lacking. I'd also like to understand if they're good with the schools and if they're good with the city, or like just how they like the city and what they want to see more of. So, because that's who our customers are.
That we don't necessarily have. That is like that community engagement aspect of a strategic plan where we would get that. It's like when the city's growing, what do the residents want?
Yeah, it's like I went to Nice, France for Christmas, and that whole city is built around leisure and activity. And it'd be nice to know what the residents here want.
Yeah.
You know, if we're really mapping out a plan, it'd be nice to
Agreed.
do something for them.
In most instances with other local jurisdictions, they'll do a biannual survey or something like that, where it'll evaluate kind of the core duties of the city, so public safety, public works, streets, and then it could also tie into local businesses, retail, and along those lines. But I think it could be definitely something that we place in as a potential deliverable as we talk about enhance our community engagement, which I heard as one of the focus areas moving forward. So I'll paste that kind of into that piece.
I think that could address the second bucket that Eric was talking about, maximizing profits. So, like, what kind of events do we want to have?
Yeah.
Things that we want to be known for. Like, we want our own masters patch. I love that show.
Commissioner Jennings.
If we're just kind of going down the list real quick of stuff we'd like to see for next time, I'd like to kind of reiterate the general consensus of lower vacancy rate. Whatever information we can get on that seemed to be pretty important to at least a few of us here. Another one that was mentioned, like in Eric's program, the Vista Awning Improvement Program. Would it be possible to get any information on that program or similar types of programs? Seem to be interesting, whether it's streets, like anything that has to do with visual facing. What do other people do, and how
Like a storefront improvement program,
yeah,
something like that.
That would be I think pertinent. Another thing is just again information that we might not have. To some other points that we've made is the larger retail centers. How much information can we gather about them and that? So we can make educated decisions as to how we navigate that. I think another one is the large-scale events. I guess my question to that would be, I've heard this brought up a couple times, and I've heard it brought up in the city council meeting, but is there anyone that is currently pitching ideas for it? Is there anyone that is like, these are available events, or is this all just like a really new open box that's just like any idea? How do you get information on that?
Well, we don't have, that I guess would probably be the best people to ask would be Parks and Rec, because they give out our special event permits. But I will say the city does have special events. Like, we just had our Encinitas Street Fair this past weekend. We have all of our tastes along the 101. And then we have Oktoberfest. So there are events that we do have that do bring in visitors that we could get some data on. So the city also subscribes to Placer AI. Anyone ever heard of them? Placer AI is a geo-tracking software that gives us approximate, dang near close, information on the people traveling in and around our city and where they're coming from and how long that they stay there. So we can get information on how many people went to Taste of Leucadia. We can get that. And then we can have some information on these are the types of events that the city currently has, and this is the type of visitor attraction that come to these events. And then we can talk about how big we want to go from there.
So I guess that's my next question. Is there anyone that is looking into, to Eric's point, you said something about a rock concert on the 101.
Yeah.
Has anyone looked, or it's, I just thought about it the other day, but like I know it's not a lot of something probably a lot of residents in Encinitas want necessarily, but I don't know. Is there a surf competition that brings in? Is there anyone that's coming up with the ideas that we can ask about, or is it up to us as a commission to pitch some of these ideas that, hey, do we want to go down that road? I guess that's my first question about events.
Can I interject real quick? Am I allowed?
Yeah.
Can I answer that question for you real quick? I think it would be super helpful.
This is
Stacy Riddell, sorry, 101. It would be helpful for us to tell you what our events are that already exist in the city. We do not have a lot of big, huge new events or people applying for event permits of that nature. We have Leucadia Art Walk, it's 20 years old. So we have a 20-year-old event that brings 8,000 people. We have data on the people coming in. Taste of Leucadia, I can give you every stat you want on it because it's ticketed. So we know exactly where they're buying tickets from. We know how many people come. We know how many we give away. We know how many volunteers we have. Like, this is statistics that we have.
I'd be curious to those things just because Eric brought it up at the city council meeting, and he brought up specifically Laguna Beach, and I've been to a pageant of the Masters, and he was talking about, in fairness, like the millions of dollars that these events bring in city revenue. I can only guess Del Mar, in a small city, has a lot of that with the kind of events that they put on. So my question to us as a group would be, what are our options? What are options that the city of Encinitas could all get around and not be upset at? And is there anyone looking into what those options are, or is that all on us?
I think that would be a great conversation to include our partners on, because, for example, they can tell you what type of events are good for our businesses versus what type of events aren't. Because sometimes we've heard that things that require street closures don't necessarily benefit our business. So I would definitely like to bring in our partners for that conversation. But yeah, so you guys can come up with like ideas, right? So the city, for example, Encinitas is a wellness town. So maybe there's some kind of yoga retreat, all hypothetical. And then we can create a whole event around like the world's largest wellness event, right? And then you would put this in your work plan. Staff could kind of do some research on it. Staff could go out to our connections at different cities, not only in California, but maybe in other states. We could have our partners do the same thing, and we can come back and bring you information on this is what's feasible for events.
So speaking of feasible, I guess just my last 2 points. And
then we got to move it along. Come on. I'm just kidding.
Right. I'd like to see the information that he mentioned on sales tax leakage.
Okay.
And whatever, we can elaborate there. And as well as he made a pretty made the point a couple times about the revenue that hotel, and that kind of that can bring. But he also mentioned that, I think we all know Encinitas doesn't have a lot of space, right? So what was the point of bringing that up? Is that an avenue to even go down? And what kind of statistics do we have, or information do we have as to if that's even a plausible idea for us to talk about?
Something that came up one time is, as Mike and I are just doing our work and we were talking to some people, but we could even potentially look at like opportunity sites. And then what would you guys recommend we do with this site? So if that means bringing in a boutique hotel, or Delilah, go out and find developers and try to do something with this site because we need another hotel in Encinitas. Like, that's something you could ask staff to bring you information on. Like, where are some properties located in town that we think could host something?
I think that's what I want.
Okay. And all right.
I would like to know.
Commissioner Kreider.
Once we have this meeting with all this data, I would really like to see, I don't know if this goes on the work plan or how it works, but us put together like a SWOT. Look at our strengths, look at our weaknesses, look at the opportunities, and have us kind of come together so that we're all kind of on the same page. What are the good things that we're looking at? What are the areas that are threats to us? Festivals in Oceanside or whatever they are. But I would love to see, like, on the work plan, putting a SWOT together.
Yep, great idea. Someone over here, Chair Hutchinson.
I'd just like to follow up a little bit on what Commissioner Villamano brought up, and that is what our customer base wants. And I think I know the mayor made the point that what really makes Encinitas special is it's a laid-back little town that doesn't have big, giant box stores, and maybe a big, giant festival isn't something that we want. My wife is always saying their favorite time of year is September because all the tourists are gone. But on the other hand, we want tourists, So you kind of have to balance all this and see what the residents do want. I mean, how much of that? How much do we sacrifice our small townness to generate revenue?
Yeah, so we can put on there our work plan community engagement, because we need to figure out a way to hear from our residents.
Yeah.
I think we got a pretty good start.
I don't know.
Yes, Commissioner Corey.
Talk about the permitting process being very difficult for most people.
Not most.
Okay.
I've just heard feedback that I've met with businesses. Don't put words in my mouth.
Should we get like an independent audit from somebody just to go through the process to kind of?
I can just tell you.
Most recent? Okay.
Which one you want
Well,
to
no, what?
What are the bottlenecks that we need?
Yeah, I think so. There's some things that we've heard about the people in planning and development services kind of work in silos, and that is a huge missed just a huge aha moment for city staff. And through the business visits, that was one of the things we discovered, and we're able to implement this thing called like a pre-permitting meeting, but it's in early stages. But we think that's definitely something that would help alleviate the stress of going through permitting in Encinitas. Because as a staff person who advocates for businesses, when I walk to the other side of City Hall and I say, hey, what's going on with this business? I can promise you that when I see these emails, our staff is working hard to address and respond. I think it's just there's a lot of opportunity for interdepartmental collaboration, and that is something that we are working on. Plus, when I first started, I know that there was some issues with InterWest or who do we use for permitting?
InterWest.
So the city of Encinitas contracts for our plan check reviewers, and that was causing some friction.
It used to be called Eskil. Yes.
Yeah.
Now Interwest.
And so we've identified some issues that were the root of we identified things that were the root of many of the issues that our business owners were experiencing when it came to permitting. I see some people eager to speak.
We'll form a subcommittee on this one.
We'll form a subcommittee, but we could definitely, like Mike mentioned, I think it would be good to bring in our planning staff to say this is what happens, and then you can ask them questions, especially as people going through the experience, and we get their presentation, and then you're able to discuss like what recommendations we can make to the city that you all think could enhance the permitting process in Encinitas. That's what I would how I would recommend going about that recommendation.
Commissioner Corey, it's the time and the money. So it's both. It's the cost and the time.
Like the cost that Encinitas charges for.
And every time they ask for a change, you
have
to pay for that change.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So
you need to change your outdoor and that costs $10,000. Really?
Well, thank you. Yeah. So.
Subcommittee for just planning.
Well, I think what we can do, so this is our annual work plan, so we don't have to solve everything today. But in our work plan, we can put, because that definitely affects especially our small businesses that don't have the resources to just hire a firm to navigate this permitting process. But we could definitely include identify planning and permitting bottlenecks, and part of that could be receiving a special presentation and training from our planning staff, and then we can discuss
it further. Yeah, so I will jump in that the City Council has already identified this as a focus area and has directed staff, development services staff, to look into it to see how we can streamline it to the best of our ability. There has been a change in staffing recently, and that's including from top down. So with that change, I think a lot of positive things are happening. We are aware of some of the steps and process do take time, and some of the review process takes time. I know that our development services director has looked at some of our standard responses, saying, hey, we have 60 days to get back to you. Okay, well, some of the 60-day response times really shouldn't be 60, it should be 30. So they're already voluntarily looking at that, going, hey, we could streamline this a little better. And then the next step is some of those stuff that should be 30, or even plan review in and of itself, should actually be over the counter or automatically. Right, so we are doing that right now from staff's perspective. It just hasn't really got to the point of where it's rolling out moving forward. But I think the feedback that we're receiving on our walk and talks with the business community, I think, has been very helpful, because we're learning about specific examples, and then taking that back to the development services team to talk more about what that means. So,
Commissioner Jennison. I'd be happy to nominate myself if we wanted to start a subcommittee to have these conversations, to aggregate experiences, not only personal, but through other business owners, so that we can bring a presentation to whoever would like to hear it.
So,
happy to leave that.
And Commissioner Hutchinson, so at the next meeting, might we then have planning come? Would that be the best avenue to have them speak with us here at a meeting, or should we get taken around and shown how that works behind the scenes? Or
staff would recommend that we do kind of an info item. I think we talk about the permitting process and give an example. And I'm walking through that just mentally right now. What would be the best way for each of you to learn more about our process? Because it is also project specific. And I think maybe that piece is probably need a little more feedback about how, because we can bring sample projects and walk through what that timeline looks, or we're going to have to request it through development services to have one of their planning managers come and speak to us to be able to walk through, okay, this is the standard project to do certain tenant, if it's tenant improvements, or to what severity, then we can walk and talk through what those steps are. If that makes sense as next step.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't have so much experience with permitting on a business end, but I have a lot of experience on a residential end. And I know like the 60-day, it's 5 o'clock on the last day when you hear from whoever the planning person is, and so it's not, like you said, it doesn't necessarily, shouldn't have to take 60 days for so many things, and just seems to. Anyway, that's why I'd like to know what the process really is.
Commissioner Pascal.
I certainly echo what everybody's feelings with this. With regard to my personal experience, which is nationwide, this is the same problem as everywhere in the country, with few exceptions. Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania is one of those exceptions. But I think it would be great to have code enforcement or whoever is the responsible party to be in front of us, show us what they do. Because I'm sure we get done learning about all these areas, and I submit that all these areas have their own personalities to them, but all these guys have all the same problems. Whether it's Brandon's or Tony's, when they're going for their permits, it's a nightmare. And I think at the end of the day, when we're looking for things to address, that's going to be very much on top of this.
Yes, I think that should be a priority as a new business commission that the public should read. That's a priority. That is something on our agenda that we're going to address.
As maybe the newest business right here, I can at least vouch for, and I don't know what it was like before, but I can at least vouch for whatever changes they did make is working. My experience with the building permits and everything was actually very smooth, very seamless, very quick. I can say I just built an ADU on our house last year. My residential experience, quite the opposite. What you said,
Yeah.
and really, and even with the same people, and I don't know where that difference is. But then again, I don't know how much of that is necessarily under our purview, as much as the business is. But I can at least vouch for like the combo inspectors and everything going on with like the building permits was very easy, very smooth, and expedited.
Can you speak into the mic?
No, it was. My conditional use permit right now, maybe not so much. But as far as like the building, was a pleasant experience.
Good.
Yeah.
Great. So I think we're ready to wrap up this item. So we have a lot of good notes. Right now with the work plan, we have some focus areas. If Mike, could you just go down and read just the focus areas? You don't have to.
So projects. So commission goals and projects. The first one is to research and learn more about the needs of the business community. And I think that was the big catch-all of just basic additional information. I'll run through this, and if there's additional information that you think I need to take note of, please let me know. But it's receiving all data from Eric 101's Zen Chamber, having that presentation at the next meeting as best as we can. And then also included within that have a component of what's going well, what areas could be improved upon from a business consensus from each of the 101s in Chamber. Let's talk a little bit about vacancy rates and what are some of those throughout each area, number of businesses by category, and also have that broken down by district. Sales tax information might be a little squishy. We can't provide a lot of specific detail, but I think overall we can provide a summary of some of the sales tax information, as well as I think we could also work on the average square feet of storefronts, tenant mix, and specifically can we get to know or present additional information about the shopping centers and the ownership. Let's see. Focus on areas, and again, this is all on that research hub goal. Focus on areas within the city that have not had a lot of attention, and we're talking more Liebenheim and the El Camino Real area. Can we explore business storefront improvement? Some type of program like that'll talk about awnings, that'll talk about, I've seen anything of paint, stucco, just general improvement for the beautification of the storefront. Explore what that may look like and funding for that. For the large retail, for large retail information centers, for the large retail centers, how much information can we gather about them and to help guide future discussions about where they're at now? Are there opportunities to add more of the larger centers? Let's see. is there value in exploring, and I'm calling it a huge attraction event, but essentially council, I think, tied this into like this is like a fourth goal of something big. And then along those same lines, we'll talk about the engagement piece. Is it something that the community wants? So kind of explore both at the same time to determine, is the need there and the desire, and if so, what would that look like and how would that blend us as a city together? Sales tax leakage, so we can get additional information from Eric's presentation and share who it's going to and what it is. And then we can explore or discuss further the TOT options and what that would look like. I think how to enhance TOT, because for the most part, and Commissioner Pascal mentioned, it's 3%. I think 3 to 4%. It's roughly $5 million. There's some opportunity there, I think, to explore. And so what would that look like? Well, we have to look at some of the hotels or any of the stays under 30 days. And we have our 10% allocation. That's our TOT rate. So where we carve out 2% for our sand replenishment project. Are there other opportunities there that we can explore? And speaking of opportunities, let's discuss about opportunity zones. And that could be specifically looking at targeted areas throughout town and how there's going to be different solutions for those areas depending on where they're at and what's involved. And then after we gather all this data, after we have the presentations, then we can come back and actually then we can look at doing the SWOT analysis. Okay, now that we know what we think we know, what are some of our strengths, weaknesses, areas, our opportunities, and things that we should be concerned about? And then we will confirm and share all of our specific plans that we have. And then I think the last piece for the research item is any additional information that we can gather from CoStar, and we'll be able to share that summarizes Encinitas. So that's one item there. Lots of info, but I think that's kind of our baseline. Yes?
Do you have some of that LQ data?
Oh, LQ, yeah, absolutely.
I think a lot of that is in Eric's presentation.
It is, and we'll make sure to get it in here to you.
That'd be interesting to have an understanding.
Next item or next discussion point is city staff orientation. We just called it that. Code enforcement introduction and kind of discussion of daily duties, what do they do, and some of the expectations that they have, and then potentially tying in planning staff along the same lines. Get to know planning staff, talk about some of the projects that are going forward, and then just talk about that method of work. Community engagement, so looking at potentially surveying each of our areas, and then also a bigger survey that would gauge residents' sentiment, how happy they are with quality of life, how do they like the city, what would they like to see more of, and then the other piece would be, I think that's talking about, from an economic development standpoint, are we willing to sacrifice small business for big revenue or big event, or are they both one and the same, right? And then how does job creation tie into that too? So job creation, workforce development, big event, small business focus, and I think those pillars are areas that we can look at further to make the determination: do we want to explore them all, or do we want to peel them back and look at specific areas only? And I think that's all tied with the communication and gathering that data first. And then the other item was just talking about creating focus areas, and again, that was in the presentation: small business, fiscal revenue, creating quality jobs. And then, if needed, what is that large single event that would put us on the map if we want to move in that direction? That potentially could be another area. We did close a little bit talking about the permitting subcommittee, and then talking more about what have we done recently, and I'll figure out if we can tie this in with the planning discussion, depending on who we kind of have to come and talk about that. But it could be one of the staff members that have talked about specifically about the immediate changes that have been made, and how it's being seen, or what are our plans to make them? Because I think we're like right there at the point of being able to move forward with some of the recommendations to streamline that permitting process. Those are the notes that I have so far.
Can I interject, picking up on one of Commissioner Jenny's points before? Do you have the ability? Do you know what vacant land is available? That's zoned in a business zone.
I'm pretty sure CoStar does have land.
Yeah, we don't have a list, but we can get it.
But vacant land would be hard.
Well, part of economic development is future development.
Yeah.
So understanding what is available.
Because vacant
It would probably be limited on vacant land. It's going to have to be a
Yeah.
redevelopment project
Mhm.
of existing. But again, that could be more of a discussion of the commission looking at, hey, there's this northwest corner of, and I'm making this up, Encinitas and X. This could be bigger. This could be something more elaborate. So I think there's, again, the opportunity zones that could be brought out, but that may require a heavier lift.
What CoStar could get us would be how many properties of just land that are for sale currently, how many properties have been sold recently, and by who. Who sold them and who purchased them, and how much was it? What was the loan? Was this land refinanced? But
both of those sides of that equation are important. One gives you the value.
Yeah.
And the second gives you the whether or not the property's in front.
Yeah, but vacant land, I don't think that's something that they measure.
Well,
But like
brokerage communities would know.
land? Okay. Well, yeah, but CoStar has a lot that we can get.
So
but we'll include land in
more of a
that
land
vacancy
analysis.
rate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think it'd be down the road, but down the road we might want to take a look at what's the town need and where could it go.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll run to what's available.
Yeah.
When that could go, that you're absolutely right. That could tie in with some of the leakage. What is that leakage, and is there opportunity to bring in somebody in town to be able to capture that, and where would it go?
Interact with
Brokerage firms.
Brokerages, I'm so bad with names.
CB?
No, not. So I'm a part of this group called Urban Land Institute that, you've heard of it? Yeah, so we have a North County Council, and I have access to brokers, bankers, investors, developers, real estate agents even, architects, engineers. So we have that resource, but no, Coldwell Banker is not necessarily represented in this group.
And that's kind of what our next steps are from a staff perspective. So, I'll share this with the commission. One of the tough things where we're at right now is, from a staff perspective, like we see certain things that we can move now. Like, I think there's opportunities to reach out to brokers, agents, property owners to move on some development or ideas right now to start pitching it. But the issue is that we don't necessarily we don't have an economic development strategic plan. We don't have that specific direction from the city council, and now we're working on our direction from the business commission. So not to say we're in a wanderlust, because we're not just wandering around without purpose, right? But in essence, we don't have that mission. And so one of the things that I know that Delilah and I would love to have through the commission, and also kind of codified or confirmed by the council, is we're talking about what are the quick things maybe that we can do. Well, part of our interaction with the business community, our quick things right now is to show our face, give our number, give our name, call us, let's develop the relationship. And then I think the next step could be something that we build into our plan. But that is, and again, being the newer folks in town with a relatively newer program through our economic development program that we have in place, we're in a great spot, meaning we get to build what that looks like. But conversely, we can't necessarily run and with considering that these are our marching orders, because we don't really know where we want to end up.
Yeah.
So we're trying to do that fine balance and working closely with the chamber and our 101s to figure out, hey, this seems to be in line with our city council goals and objectives. Okay, let's continue forward down this path.
Yeah.
But as we move forward, I think the direction that y'all all have for staff to be able to move forward, and then also for city council to be able to confirm that, it's going to help us figure out what priority we could take moving forward.
So, like, for example, we do have opportunity sites in town, and I have this network of people that I can call, but without that direction, what business do I want to bring in here? Like, I know I don't want another Starbucks, but what do we want? Mm-hmm. I mean, I have my ideas, but this isn't my plan, so.
Yeah, that was my original thought, trying to figure out where we are to start, to help us figure out where we want to go. which helps figure out
Yeah.
what you want to put where.
Perfect.
Part of that process.
So then it sounds like staff will come back. We'll ask our economic development partners to come as well, and we'll present some data at our next meeting. And then hopefully next meeting we can create our draft work plan. And I think that's where we're at currently.
You really wrote all that stuff down on the computer.
Yeah.
What I just reviewed, yes.
Yeah. I take him with me everywhere I go.
Amazing.
This is,
Yes.
and yeah.
Need a raise.
Oh, he's got his raise.
So we'll, that's why I love meetings. Doesn't matter. 24/7.
Yeah.
I'll
No,
meet.
the deputy city manager is my assistant. Okay, well, there's no action that needs to be taken on.
So, just to confirm, so we're going to come back with kind of not the data dump, because that seems like a good company, the data review, and then potentially, I think we'd see if we can integrate kind of the code enforcement and planning kind of meet and greet, if we can call it that. I think those would be two very good items that'll probably take up a good chunk of time. In the meantime, what we'll do is we'll kind of refine some of these. So each of the deliverables we'll keep in place, but maybe we can kind of realign them with some focus areas for the commission to consider. And then we can kind of take an item after we go through the data and then have the meet and greet. Then we can bring back the work plan and then talk about potentially specific assignments to some of those refined focus areas. And then we can also add, subtract, or edit.
So if I understand correctly, Commissioner Hutcherson has to come up with the agenda for the next meeting. We can't talk to him.
We talk to him now. So if we're done with this item, I have the action for this is directing staff to come back with data to support our work plan for next meeting. Then moving on to item 9, informational items. We don't have any for this meeting. In item 10, commission member initiated agenda items. We don't have any for this meeting. However, if at any future meeting any commissioner has an idea and they want to add something to the agenda and we didn't discuss it at a meeting prior, please email myself, dwelnick@encinitasca.com, with your agenda item, and we can work together to create that agenda report. So that way at the next meeting you can present your agenda item and open it up for discussion at the public meeting. Now moving on to item 11, future agenda items added by commission members. Now this is the area of the meeting where if you have something like the discussion today sparked an idea and you would like Delilah to add an agenda item for our next meeting, now is your time to add that item, and then we can make sure we agendize it for our next regular or special meeting. Does anyone have any items they would like to add to the agenda? Your subcommittees. We're good. Yes, we do. We do. Great. And then we do like to end our commission meetings with a commission roundtable and possible direction to staff. So this is your first meeting, so I don't anticipate there being much to say. But in the future, if there's any information that either you gleaned from our last meeting to now that you think would be pertinent to share with this information, you can share special events, you can share special events, upcoming meetings. Now is the time to just share that.
I would just say that today I watched the video of the city attorney talking about the Brown Act. And if you haven't done that, you ought to do it, because it tells you a lot.
And it's required a little bit. Yeah. If you can, that'd be great.
That too.
No, it is good. It is good. And I've been in local government for a while, and that was the first time I've seen that type of presentation. So it was very interesting. I mean, for not a local government geek, I guess, but that was cool. It was cool to see that presentation.
Is that easy to find?
YouTube, right?
Yeah.
It's in the emails that I sent you, Commissioner Shade.
Yeah.
All right.
I didn't know.
Okay.
Oh,
He's talking about
please
rewatch.
do.
Yeah.
All right. Well, meeting adjourned at 7:32 p.m. Thank you. Oh, our next meeting. Oh gosh. See you guys at our next meeting, May 18th. Should have said that before I adjourned the meeting.
We reviewed it. It's in the calendar.
So how